Kim, I'd
Yes.
like you to read the first two paragraphs of a student essay that culminated this unit.
Okay. Would you be brave enough to fight in a war for freedom? Patrick Henry wrote a speech all about that. He wrote the speech, "Give me liberty or give me death," to the Virginia Convention. He wrote this speech on March 23, 1775. He stated that King George III is a siren, and he is luring us into believing we can be in peace under British rule. He states exactly this, quote, "We are apt to shut our eyes against a painful truth and listen to the song of that siren till she transforms us into beasts," end quote. I think Patrick Henry is comparing the sirens who sing pretty songs to bump pirate ships into rocks to King George III singing pretty songs or saying, "You can have peace." He really has a smirk on his face and wants them under British rule forever. Patrick Henry was a symbol for America's struggle for liberty by wanting to fight for freedom. Do you want me to go on?
That was the first paragraph.
Okay.
And read the second paragraph.
All right. Patrick Henry goes on to say, quote, "No man thinks more highly of the patriotism as well as abilities of the very worthy gentlemen who have just addressed the House, but different men often see the same subject in different lights," end quote. I think the beginning of this means that Patrick Henry cares a lot about the people, but disagrees about the letter that the colonists had sent to King George. I think the second part means that they have the same subject, but they all have a different point of view. He just doesn't want to be disrespectful to anyone's opinions.
Okay. So what I see in there is a lot of things. He sort of shows an understanding of the metaphor of the siren that we talked about. He establishes the context. He hooks our attention. He has a thesis question, a thesis statement that directly answers the prompt. The prompt was, how is Patrick Henry a symbol for American liberty? Correct?
America's struggle.
America's struggle for liberty.
Yes.
And the last sentence answers that question. The author uses transitions. He goes on to say, and then incorporates a quote. And then he explains the quote. So there's a lot of strong writing elements that is pretty sophisticated for a fourth grader. Was this a gifted class?
No,
No.
not particularly.
No.
No, it was
I
just
mean,
one of our regular education classes.
General class. Okay.
Yes.
So what was the method for teaching the students how to write like that was different for this class that you hadn't done before?
Well, I've done a lot of system training, like I said before, and one of the trainings that I've done in the last few years has been, what have you read, like what you're going to write. And so we chose a mentor text, which was the 8th grade piece from Appendix C about it was an analysis of the Old Man and the Sea.
So from Appendix C of
the Common Core.
Of the Common Core standards.
Yes,
where it
in 8th
has
grade.
Student exemplars
Yes,
of student writing.
Right. So it was an 8th grade student's piece, and that is a part of the appendix. And so we chose that. I chose that because I felt like, okay, this piece sounds like what I envision their pieces looking like in the end. This is what, I want their end product to look like. And so I felt like, we study mentor texts all the time, but usually they're adult written published pieces that the kids are studying and trying to emulate. So I felt like this was, justified that they could certainly, if they can study adult written published pieces, they could certainly study an 8th grade student's published piece.
That makes
and
sense.
it not be a far-fetched. So when we introduced it to them, I said, we're going to write an analysis essay about how Patrick Henry was a struggle for how Patrick Henry was a symbol of America's struggle for liberty.
Right.
And I explained to them, you're going to write like an 8th grader. Do y'all think you can handle it? And they were like, yes, ma'am. So they really rose to the occasion of being able to do that. We analyzed that text. We looked at the beginning paragraph. Okay, let's read the beginning paragraph of this analysis of the Old Man and the Sea. What did this author do? What do you notice? And they would tell me, well, I think they're just kind of given like a short summary of what the text is about. And then we went to the next paragraph. Okay, what do you notice? Well, it says, he goes on to say, or as he gets into the story, things like that. And then they would explain things that were going on in that section of the text, such as, whoever wrote this has quotation marks and a page number. So they pulled directly from the book and put it in quotation marks. And then after that, they said what they thought about that quote.
So they're unpacking and analyzing the mentor text, student
Yes.
written 8th grader essay, and then they're going to do what with that? After they've looked at it and they said, this is what makes this a good essay, then what happens?
They saw we talked about and showed them the elements of that 8th grader's writing that we wanted to see in theirs.
But they had pulled it out themselves.
They had, yes, and then we just reiterated, okay guys, y'all saw that they had good transitions. You saw that they put quotation marks and they referenced the original writing piece. And we talked about the beginning, how to have an engaging beginning with your writing. And we looked at how that person, that mentor, had written theirs was a question. And so a lot of ours chose to do a question as well. All year we had been talking about engaging beginnings and different
Right.
types, but
Right.
a lot of them chose to do a question because he had. And we kept that mentor text up the whole entire time we
But they had a
wrote
copy of it in
theirs.
their folder, and it
Right.
was up. And then we did some guided writing as well, where I would say, okay, I see how this person started their piece, and we're thinking about, what was this whole speech about? What was Patrick Henry's speech about? So, because they summarized in The Old Man and the Sea, so let's think about how can we start our piece. And we just kind of co-wrote an example together. And then, but first let me back up. First, I gave them a graphic organizer, and we kind of planned it out. So we talked about the beginning first, and it says in the graphic organizer, make sure to include the speech title, just like they did this, The Old Man and the Sea.
Right.
The author, and the statement about how Patrick Henry is a symbol of America's struggle for liberty.
Right.
So those were things that were non-negotiables.
Right.
That they knew coming into this they had to have an introduction.
And this is posted on the Prezi, so
Yes.
if people want to look at it. And you chunked this and did it one paragraph a day.
Yes.
So it took about a day to do each
Well,
paragraph.
we did beginning, and then we did middle, and then we did end.
Okay.
That was the draft.
That was the draft.
Before they did the revising and editing and making sure it all
Right.
looked correct before they published it.
So what was as they were doing this, what did you see in the students? Looking at a piece of writing that was an 8th grader and they're trying to emulate that. Were they intimidated?
No.
They loved it.
Ours were so excited.
Yes.
They thought it was great.
Well,
And I mean, at this school, we are constantly talking to our students about exceeding the standards, about giving, even Ms. Murphy said this morning, 110%. This to them was giving their 110%, how they want to show that they are the best and they can do it. They have no fear. Our
Really?
students
I kinda
have no
played-
fear about.
I played with mine a little bit.
Mhm.
I tend to do that anyway, just because I want them to want to do it, and it's not my idea that they're going to write like an 8th grader. I said, this is an 8th grade writing piece, guys, so I just want you to know it's 8th grade, and that we can do that. I don't know, are you sure you can write like an 8th grader? I mean, are you sure? Oh, yes, they rose to the challenge and actually exceeded our expectations,
Right.
for the
They
most
did.
part, yes.
Wow. So you set the
Yes.
expectations high and they met it.
They loved the challenge.
Okay,
Yes.
excellent. So we'll in our last session, we're going to look at this and see what our thoughts are and do some reflection.